Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for kind introduction. It was almost perfect, Sharkashup. It was excellent. I'm really happy I can be here with you. Unfortunately, only online. I believe some other time we can meet actually physically, but this is good enough, and I will try to share my presentation with you.
My presentation will be removing obstacles in regional trade, but now view from Serbia. And as I told you, I will focus mostly on Serbia, just with a few remarks about the integration. And I would like to thank my colleague, especially Gordana, for explaining so well about this regional integration and all other positions. There is too much of these initiatives. We have CEFTA, which is working. Some work is done by RCC. We have Berlin process. We have small Schengen open Balkan, and in many ways these initiatives overlap. But some initiatives include all actors in the region, some only three, and this is a bit problematic. But also, what I see here, I always look in correlation with our relations with the EU, because all the countries are on the way to becoming EU members. And what I think is very important, that all these steps should be steps towards this end, and not create some, let's say, more bigger regional interest. Because as you see from the trade figures, EU is the most important trade partner for all of our countries. Even, for example, Montenegro, who is not dominant, but it also has the largest share in exports and imports.
Why these initiatives like Open Balkan appear. And I think the general reason for that is the political constraints that appear in the Balkan region. So, for example, in Open Balkan, there is only Macedonia, Albania, and Serbia, not all Western Balkan 6 countries. I think the reason is because 3 people can negotiate easily than 6 people. So the political constraints. So the one theory behind that is that snowballing effect. They want to start rolling the ball, and after that, other countries will join them. So that's my theory why those initiatives happen. So they want to try something to move forward, because the political constraints in the Western Balkans are very strong, and everyone wants to stay in status quo. Everyone wants to stay. So probably liberalization should, some strong forces are needed to move forward.
We need new, innovative and brave solutions, and I think that today the risks are very big, but tomorrow it will be perhaps much bigger. So that's why I think we got to do something now.
The conclusion stemming from this short overview of the Polish perspective on the profits of participation in CEFTA may suggest that the example of successful cooperation of Visegrad countries under CEFTA can potentially reflect the opportunities waiting for the Western Balkan countries in their intra-regional free trade agreement. If this agreement is built on EU rules and standards, the CEFTA for Visegrad 4 countries had demonstrated that this kind of integration may become a permanent part of multilateral cooperation, not only in trade, but also as a stabilizing economic factor. And it's important that even after our accession to the EU, the share of Visegrad countries in our trade was still very high, and it did not decrease after 2004.
In this block, we are going to focus on the views from the Western Balkan countries, namely Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and North Macedonia. We are also going to talk about Slovakian experience with CEFTA and EU single market.
Montenegro represents a very liberal, open to trade and services-oriented country and highly import dependent, and actually, as you know, small economic system. Coverage of imports, of export by imports has been constantly falling since regaining the independence in 2006. Then it was at 30% to GDP. Now in 2021 we have 17.4. Total trade in goods in GDP stands at 60.3%. Actually, as I already said, Union keeps on being Montenegro's largest trading partner, and apart from the Union, there are the CEFTA 2006 signatories. Montenegro exports to the EU and CEFTA 31 and 43% of its goods and services respectively, and imports from EU and CEFTA 46 and 28% of total imports. Another group of important trade partners are China and Turkey. We do not export to China. I mean, who does really?
What can be learned from the case of Slovakia? Well, even the initial handicap of being this troublemaker can actually deliver a successful outcome. And what we would recommend definitely is to also use this opportunity for having very narrowly given the boundaries for the politicians and policymakers to operate when it's given that you are going to be you are doing that for the integration purpose. And one more important thing is that during this phase of economic boom, so when everything is going great in the economy and the unemployment is getting lower and really like rainbows and unicorns, eventually you might be surprised at how easily those advantages and that basic competitive advantages your country has, they may really quickly disappear. So you need to maintain this idea of constantly improving your business environment and trying to be more attractive, more competitive, not just by low labor costs, but also by some other competitive advantages. Because if you don't do that, you will face additional troubles in the future.
Želela bih da skrenem pažnju da je ova knjiga rezultat jednog velikog istraživačkog napora koji je dalo 10 instituta i nevladinih organizacija iz 10 zemalja, W4 iz B6, da tako kažem, koji su se bavili temom regionalnih ekonomskih integracija od CEFTA do jedinstvenog evropskog tržišta, tako da su tu sa nama Institut za politiku i društvo iz Praga, Robert Schuman iz Budimpešte, Centar za društvene ekonomske istraživanja iz Varšave, Institut iz Bratislave, MESA, Albanski centar za ekonomska istraživanja, spoljnopolitička inicijativa iz Bosne i Hercegovine, Finance Think iz Skoplja, RIN Invest iz Prištine, Crnogorska paneuropska unija i predstavnici Ekonomskog fakulteta iz Podgorice i Centar za spoljnu politiku i Ekonomski fakultet Univerziteta u Beogradu iz Srbije. Knjiga obuhvata uvodnu analizu, hronološki put od toga kako je nastala CEFTA, šta je to značilo za zemlje Višegradske grupe, kako su oni spojili svoj put od jedinstvenog političkog pristupa prema Europskoj uniji, prema postepenom osnaživanju ekonomske integracije koja se pokazala vrlo korisna i prije članstva i u članstvu, i kako te naučene lekcije iz zemalja danas država članica Europske unije mogu koristiti zemljama naše regije na putu europske integracije sa fokusom na njen ekonomski aspekt. Ono što nas čini specifičnim svakako je da smo mi uglavnom sa istim backgroundom, ekonomskim, političkim, i kod nas ima malo deficita političkog povjerenja između zemalja, ali vrlo tjesne ekonomske saradnje, tako da nam nisu iste startne pozicije, ali nam je cilj jednak, a to je punopravno članstvo u Europskoj uniji i naravno ekonomska saradnja koja treba da afirmiše to članstvo i koja treba da bude u korist i građana i biznisa.
The main outputs of this project are really crucial. Webinar on removing obstacles on the regional trade. Online roundtable focus on explanation of trade integration path from CEFTA to the European Union's single market. This is not an easy thing. It looks very easy. It sounds very easy, but in order to do it properly, you really need to repeat yourself on a daily basis that the rule of law and the European Union standards, the framework of the European Union acquis, must be there, because it will be very easy to get out from that path on the transition from CEFTA to the European Union single market. So lessons learned from V4, from our country, to our friends, dear friends, who we all support in the Western Balkans region, all 6 of them. It's a storytelling about the project activities, and this book of regional economic cooperation and the final conference scheduled for 15 September 12 of this year is really, really very crucial to be noticed. All the 6 Western Balkan countries, for us, we think that, we hope, we want to believe that they learn a lot from our own experience and from the experience of the political and economic cooperation and of this marriage between political and economic, because economic cannot go based on the European standards without the political confidence, and political cannot go on its own without the economic cooperation. The Berlin process for us concentrates in this context on areas such as infrastructure development, connectivity, business, regional youth exchanges, reconciliation, and science. Because the science and the new technologies and digitalizations and the new ways of thinking for the young people are very, very important part of the Berlin process, and without that, the economic transformation cannot bring the real results. That's why, with the establishment of the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, RICO, the agreement to develop a common regional market, the signing of the regional roaming agreement, and the creation of the green lanes to speed up border procedures with key goods in the time of, not only in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, but even after that, the Berlin process for us is still bringing significant results that are tangible for the people in the region and that are intended to prepare the region for accession of the EU. One of the main differences between the two is that in the V4 case, political cooperation was created first. Okay? This is a very important moment. Political cooperation was created first. We knew what we want politically. And the country's leaders of ours only then agreed on the economic cooperation afterwards. In the Western Balkan 6, the opposite is happening, and with a high level of achieved regional economic integration, we hope, with the little political will to deeper political cooperation and to deeper understanding for reconciliation and to deeper understanding for the fact that we all are one if we want to go forward. That's why this is how we and they are going to build the mutual trust. And what connects the countries of V4 is the strategic path of integration towards the EU, and it was the case from the very start, from the very beginning. We all knew at the very beginning that the strategic path of integration towards the EU is just one, and it's the regatta principle, not the convoy principle, and not the A and B and C principle.
Za mene je Međunarodni višegradski fond prije svega najbolji dokaz da regionalna saradnja može funkcionisati ukoliko su učesnici istinski zainteresovani. Fond je za 22 godine svog postojanja podržao više od 6.000 projekata u ukupnom iznosu oko 100 milijuna eura.
Visegrad Fund annually allocated millions of euros to hundreds of Visegrad cooperation projects and mobility programs across Central and Eastern Europe. Until now, the overall approved funding amounts to almost 116 million euros.